Well, he's already had a huge impact
on field, but when he wins that day.
Age with this question about whether he's spent $500 million.
History before us is irrelevant, and I don't know.
Super Tuesday.
Well, obviously, Casey, the conversation around Mike Bloomberg has changed dramatically just in the last 48 hours or so. First, with the real victory for Joe Biden, bringing him back to the forefront as the supposed moderate alternative who could stand a chance of stopping Sanders. And now with Pete Buttigieg.
Stake their rationale on staying in the race, on their ability to raise money. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren raising money from grassroots donors. They both announced really massive fundraising hauls in February.
There's no guarantee it would have worked out for them. And then they started to live under oppressive.
So, I mean, I think that there is a sense now in which everyone in this race has to decide, do I have a real path to go forward, and do I want to play a spoiler role? I mean, Bloomberg is not going to face any sort of financial pressures to get out of the race, so the other candidates have to decide if they're going to continue to soak up grassroots money, traditional money, making it more difficult for other candidates who have a bigger path to do that. And I think that that's one of the reasons, that's one of the factors that played into to Pete Buttigieg's decision to drop out tonight. You know, his campaign actually had set a $13 million fundraising goal before Super Tuesday. On Saturday, they sent an update to supporters saying they had raised $8 million. Now, that sounds like a lot of money, but it's really not that much money. So they'd already started to experience a little bit of that slowdown in how much money they're able to bring in. And when you're looking at Super Tuesday, you need tens of millions of dollars to go up on the air. On a good day, you need tens of millions of dollars and then some to go up on the air and compete with Michael Bloomberg, given that he's already dumped, $100 million, $200 million in these states altogether.
And I just want to let us all know that we are awaiting Pete Buttigieg to speak any moment. We were told around 8:30, so it really should be any minute. I might have to interrupt if he takes the podium there. We have heard the crowd chanting, Pete, Pete, Pete. But Kari, does it bother you, and I talked about this a little bit with Andrew Yang at the top of the hour, does it bother you that here we are as, the contests get underway and the field diversity is getting narrower and narrower, especially, now Pete Buttigieg dropping out. He was the youngest in the field. He obviously is gay, and we have hardly any ethnic diversity left. You are part of this party. What does that tell you?
Well, just so you understand, Anna, we have one billionaire left in the race, so we're not losing all the diversity. I mean, we had two billionaires, now we have one. No, I mean, I think that a lot of people are downtrodden and distraught and just trying to figure out where they're going to find themselves in this process. I mean, do you want to, which 75-plus-year-old white male do you want is the question that people are asking themselves at this time. So yes, we are having a crisis of diversity in our party. And Pete Buttigieg was a ray of light. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, and not only was he brilliant beyond, anyone's belief, but he represented so much of the future of who we want to be. He and his husband, Chasten, represented the future that we thought we could have in this country. And, as we see them go on stage now, I mean, it was an amazing, amazing moment that for them to be winning the Iowa caucus. I keep going back to that moment.
Hey, Bakari, let's just stop and pause for a minute. Forgive me for interrupting, but let's listen to
Sure.
Pete Buttigieg's husband. This is Chasten Buttigieg.
Pete Buttigieg basking in cheers in South Bend as he suspends his campaign for president of the United States. There he is with his husband, Chasten Buttigieg, and I think that we would be remiss not to take this opportunity to point out that this is the first time we've ever seen this. He's dropping out tonight, but he and his husband made history. We've never been able to say that about any couple in this kind of a situation. And while there may be some dispute still about the Iowa results, he is the first openly gay person to win delegates to a national convention. I'm going to go to Garrett Haake now, who is at a now concluded event for the...
We're here to make sure you're okay.
Biden. So we'll see what happens, but this race has a long way to go, and hopefully Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, and Mike Bloomberg take a lead from Pete Buttigieg, and so that you have to put the country first.
David Swerdlick, your thoughts on what we just heard?
Yeah, it was a well-done speech. He got out at the right time. None of the candidates in this race was an Obama. Each of them had a little piece of Obama. Mayor Buttigieg's piece was that he delivered oratory in that even Steven baritone. All that was really missing there was "Don't boo, vote." And I think that's how people will remember him. His supporters were chanting 2024. Of course, if he runs at that time, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez will be 36 at that time. You could see something like that as a Democratic primary, and this same moderate versus left type clash among Democrats, depending on what happens on Super Tuesday next year and in the years to come.
And Ron Brownstein, he said too much is at stake to retreat to the sidelines. Why do you think he did not endorse Joe Biden at this time? Do you expect him to?
One reason is what Andrew Yang said. I mean, you want to be respectful to your supporters at this moment. You don't immediately want to put them into something else. But he gets two bites at the apple this way. I mean, he made very clear tonight that he does not think Bernie Sanders' direction is the right direction for the Democratic Party or a winning direction. And that'll be part of the story tonight and tomorrow. And then if he does, in fact, endorse later, he will get to make that point again a second time. So like many other things he did, this was both smooth and shrewd. And he's certainly someone with a future ahead of him, though precisely in the way that David says, potentially in an ideological conflict over the direction of the party through the 2020s.
You mentioned his dig at Bernie Sanders. It's interesting because as he was speaking,
4 years ago really foreshadowed what was going to happen.
So many other journalists have spent, I mean, I in particular, honestly, because
Forces working against this president. And every Trump supporter out there should take it from me and what I'm seeing on these college campuses. This is going to be a brass knuckle fight for the future of our country come to November. Take nothing for granted. Do not scoff and say, oh, there's no way Bernie Sanders can win. No, he can win.
Or any of them.
Anyone. Any one of them can win. And the moment we stop fighting, the left smiles. Because they know that's the point that
Sanders at the top of the ticket would hurt your re-election chances.
I ran on a lot of progressive policies, but I think it's really more about someone who wants the role of leading the party forward. And so what I see from Elizabeth is somebody who's working really.
It was fine.
Sneakers. What he did this morning. He started the day in Atlanta meeting with Jimmy Carter. He went to Selma, Alabama to mark Bloody Sunday with the other candidates. And talking to his aides, I asked, why didn't he do this last night? Why did he do this today? And, one of them said, well, he wanted to have those experiences. It was all part of this process of processing what he needed to do here tonight. And I think you heard him speaking and reflecting on that tonight. And I think it really just, it kind of clarified the need to kind of put country first. And I think that's what his aides are saying led him to this moment.
Okay, all of you, thank you so much for being with us. It is an historic night. It was an
Boy, you sure don't get service like this when you order online. Dude.
It's out as a public service. It reaches out.
Counter King Mattress Factory, building quality one bed at a time.
You took my father. Somebody's gonna pay for this.
There's no story more surprising than a real-life Dateline mystery. Probably a pretty ugly crime scene. Follow every twist and turn 5 times a week.
The chase is on.
With Dateline. You're watching KTT.